Ray Youssef, welcome to Fitcoiners. Are you nutty or juiced?
I'm on TRT. I'm 47 years old.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, but tell me about that. So, wait, are you 47 years old?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. TRT. Why are you taking TRT?
Well, I think every man should be on TRT essentially after the age of 35. There's a huge drop-off in testosterone production. And that's already on top of a 1% decline in overall testosterone rates of men in the United States, right? Because of all the stuff in our food, the hormones in our food and our meat, the xenoestrogens in our water because of the BPAs. So clearly men's testosterone levels are under attack. And then there's an actual decline past the age of 35. All that combined, you'd be a fool not to be on TRT past the age of 35. Testosterone, hormonal health is one of those things that's so important to a man, not just for your daily life and not being depressed, but also for the ability to think clearly. That's the thing about androgens, like testosterone. They help you think clearly and deeply about things, give you that killer instinct so you can focus on a problem. Really focus on a problem. Remember the kind of focus we had when we were like 26? You can have that again with testosterone. That's all linked to testosterone. And I'm not just a normal guy. I'm trying to change the world, and I'm finding in the most competitive and well-defended region of the world as far as geopolitics goes, and that's money. I need my testosterone levels sky high. And I encourage every other warrior out there listening to do the same.
Okay, let's talk about health a little bit later, but first things first. You said you're trying to change the world. What are you doing to change the world?
Well, number one, I'm trying to complete the original mission of Bitcoin, which was, really to end the Fed. And number went up high enough and we gave all that up, right? Now we're fine with it being a state-sponsored meme coin. Well, the mission of Bitcoin is the mission. There's no way the world will ever be free, will ever be rich until the money is flowing. We clearly see that certain people out there, certain very vested interests, these small casts of dominant men that have always controlled the world, want to keep the world poor, especially the global south, so they continue to siphon their resources and abuse them. And the best way to do that is simple. Make sure people can't trade with each other. Clearly, trade creates wealth, but if money cannot move, then no wealth can be created. And Africa is the best example of that. If you look at Africa on a real map of the world, not the skewed Mercator projection, you'll see that it's absolutely the biggest continent there is. It's the biggest continent with the most natural resources in the ground, and the most natural resources walking above the ground is in people, young people. I just came back from Ethiopia. 130 million people, the second biggest population in Africa after Nigeria. And out of those 130 million people, 100 million of them are under the age of 27. Africa will have the most population, 80% of the population growth of the entire world in the next 30 years. It's absolutely the biggest opportunity in the world, but yet this extremely rich continent that all of these corporations go to pilfer and steal from, the people are the poorest. Why is that? It's because every single African state, and there's 55 nations in Africa, is like a little prison for money. You can't send money across the border to the country next door using the banking system. That is by design. Africa is the most overregulated region in the world. And it is also by design. There's overregulation that is killing Africa, and it manifests because the banks don't work across border. And guess what? Even the mobile money doesn't work across border. Mobile money, aka Momo, things like M-Pesa, Africa pioneered that 7 years before PayPal. Safaricom, a telco in Kenya, started M-Pesa. And it works on these little dumb phones, and some using something called USSD, which is this little gray SMS kind of menu. But it works. People can send money like that. And it's been working. Yet, out of the 7 countries that M-Pesa is present in, none of them can actually talk to each other. You can't send money from an M-Pesa user in Ghana to an M-Pesa account in Kenya or South Africa. There's 2,000 payment networks in Africa. Less than 3% actually talk to each other. What is the reason? The Western media wants us to believe that, it's because, those Africans are low IQ. How do low IQ people pioneer mobile money before anyone in the West does, and somehow they can't get it to work across borders? It's because of the overregulation. And if people out there still think I'm conspiracy theorists, consider for a moment, the fact that when Binance was taken over by American compliance, they installed an American compliance monitor. They call it, this person has more power than the CEO. No one can overrule them. The first thing this person did on their first day of work was they disabled peer-to-peer trade, Pan-African trade, just for Africa. A Kenyan can only trade with the Kenyan, a Malawian can only trade with the Malawian, a Nigerian can only trade with that. That's it. CZ took Binance peer-to-peer from my old company, tried to do a deal with us, they refused to sell, and he just copied it. And it was great when it connected all of Africa, yet the first thing that Uncle Sam did was they disabled Africans being able to trade with each other, even in crypto. So it's not a conspiracy theory. This is the reality. And they did it for Africa. They didn't do it for Latin America or Southeast Asia or anywhere else. They just did that for Africa. No one can deny that economic apartheid is real. And Africa is the main target. But it's really the entirety of the global South. Places like Russia are also under economic apartheid. They're the second or third biggest energy producer in the world. I think third biggest or fourth biggest food producer in the world. Yet they're not even in the top 20 list of economies. Who's going on? You can see how the West has weaponized every single instrument and association, from the price indexes to the SWIFT system to everything, against its enemies. Bitcoin, the promise of peer-to-peer electronic cash, is our way out. But we have a lot of plumbing to build around that, which we've been doing, and that's what I'm doing with my company, Nolans. I've started a new venture, and my goal in the next 5 years is to have 1 billion engaged citizens in the world's first truly functional and sustainable network state. And I can give you more details on that, but I think that was quite a bit for that second question.
I want to hear about that. First, tell me, how did you... Okay, so I know you for a very long time because you're everywhere, right? But specifically, I don't know your path. So how did your focus change on different projects since you were in Bitcoin? And I guess that will be a good way to get into your next project.
Yeah, well, I've been doing startups since 1999. I got my first computer at the age of 19 and just taught myself how to code. And I started building websites. And all my startups were actually peer-to-peer in some way. My first startup was a peer-to-peer version of Groupon. It didn't work, so it was too early. It was just SMS text messages. Americans didn't even know what SMS was back then in 99. And I pivoted to ringtones, peer-to-peer ringtones. And I started like the Napster for ringtones, and no funding, nothing. It was hugely successful, super cash flow positive. And I would just have people upload a ringtone, and then people could download. And I made $2.50 off of that. It looked just like iTunes, and it worked. It worked beautifully. I've been doing peer-to-peer startups since. I've had 14 peer-to-peer startups, file sharing, music sharing, almost everything you can think of. So I've been, in the peer-to-peer business for a long time. And I really consider the internet our first foray into peer-to-peer. Maybe some could consider the Gutenberg press the very first. But the internet was amazing because it allowed us to disrupt every facet of human commerce, except for one, which was the actual rails, the finance. And then we got Bitcoin, peer-to-peer commerce, we could finally do it. Now, the reason this has always been important to me was every single peer-to-peer startup I had, the problem was always the billing. Like my first startup, the ringtone startup, or my pivot rather, so I could call it the second. But the problem was it was mostly these young kids, teenagers that wanted these ringtones. But man, how are they going to pay for them when they don't have a credit card? They have to borrow mama's credit card, then she see this charge on there, and she'd be like, what is this? Charge back, boom. So I was essentially selling to an unbanked audience in the West. They were just young. But there's all these unbanked and underbanked people in the global South. And like, as I've already stated, even if you're banked in Nigeria or banked in Egypt or banked in Kenya, you're still unbanked in the rest of Africa. And you're most definitely unbanked in the rest of the world. So, the whole criteria of what is banked, it doesn't exist. There's no one in the world that's really banked at all, anywhere, except maybe huge multinational corporations that can afford to open up a bank account in every country in the world. Everyone is underbanked. Everyone. And the global South is pretty much completely unbanked, except for the country where they be born in. And that's the challenge. People think we have to serve these people out in the huts and villages. No, we don't. They're fine, actually. They can send money with M-Pesa, with mobile money to their friends in the next village or whatever. They're cool. What we have to do is help those people, those entrepreneurs that are trying to make the commerce happen on the whole continent and open corridors up to the rest of the global south. Like, I'll give you guys some examples. And I'm putting all this out there because I want to cure some of the misconceptions here. When people talk about the unbanked in Africa, they think, well, yeah, it's this dude in a hut somewhere, and we have to give that dude in the hut a bank account. No, it's not the dude in the hut we have to worry about. Believe me, they're fine. They're cool. They can use mobile money. They're great. It's the people in the big cities, in Lagos, for example, who has an arbitrage business, and he wants to do business with, he has a non-local business, let's say, and he wants to accept payments from the rest of Africa. That would be an X at least in that business. If you could just accept payments from the other 53 states, or 54 states on the continent. X in revenue into 10X in jobs. A 10X in jobs for a continent like Africa would solve all the problems right there. But we need to stop focusing on the dude in the huts and start focusing on the entrepreneurs. And all they want to do is just move money across borders. They want to access the entire 1.4 billion population of Africa. That's why we need to solve this problem. Because if you solve this problem and you let the money flow, I promise you, a place like Africa, within as little as 4 years, even if the governments weren't, on board, it wouldn't matter. Because there'd be tremendous wealth being created. Every non-local business would essentially have 10 or 50 times more customers. Can you imagine how many jobs would be created? And at the end of the day, this is all about job creation. And all we have to do is just let that money flow. And the jobs will be created, and 99.9% of our problems will be gone. That's why I'm so excited to do what I do. I just want to make the money flow.
Well, okay, but you have a problem, right? Because they don't let the money flow, and Bitcoin that can flow is not capable of handling it. So is that something that you're trying to address?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I started No One's. Your money should be no one's business, right? That's why I called it that. And No One's is a platform. It's a wallet. It's a peer-to-peer marketplace, which is the most evolved peer-to-peer marketplace in the world. And this really is the most important component. It's all about the marketplaces. We have a spot exchange too, but that's just for trading meme coins. That's not really it's not going to solve many problems here, except allowing people to speculate, right? It's all about the marketplaces. And you know this because Ross Ulbricht, who built Silk Road, he got 2 life sentences plus 40 years for running a website? What did that website do? It's not that people were buying weed there. That it was a marketplace. It was a global free marketplace. And it used Bitcoin. Bitcoin was just a tool to make that happen. It was a great tool. I think Monero is a much better tool now, but the whole thing is enabling marketplaces, huge global marketplaces, regional marketplaces, marketplaces that focus on one corridor, thousands of marketplaces. It's all about creating this marketplace and using the best tools, whether it's Bitcoin, USDT, Monero, open up all the options, keeping things private, keeping things secure, and educating the people about why this is so awesome. Why? Because marketplaces are places where wealth is created. Caravans will come from all over to the marketplace because they know they're going to make money there. And the longer they had to move their goods, the more profit and arbitrage is to be made. This is what's so beautiful about business. This is the lifeblood of humanity, is commerce. So No One's has a great peer-to-peer marketplace. It's the best in the world. It's an OTC marketplace primarily, and also a gift card marketplace. Also, we allow crypto to be sold on there, and even goods and services. The most lucrative part of the marketplace is, guess what? The OTC is huge. In less than a year, it's going up to be the second biggest, I think, only after Binance's volume, but we'll eclipse them eventually. But it's the gift cards. The gift card marketplace is absolutely massive. And I don't think people understand the power of gift cards right now. Gift cards were the world's first digital bearer asset, right? It's just a digital serial code that you can buy with cash at a gas station or a drugstore in the States and all these other places. And you can give it to someone, like sending them an email, a picture of the back of the code, or just copy and paste a serial number. And now this person can access this entire retail economy, even if they're in, a part of the world that doesn't have Amazon. They can go onto Amazon, order something, get it shipped. eBay, and we support hundreds of gift cards. Gift cards are $140 billion a year business. Absolutely massive. And it is the inroads to the entire retail economy. And isn't that what us crypto people have always wanted? All of these huge retailers and e-commerce companies accepting our crypto. Well, guess what? With gift cards now we can do it. You can go onto no one's gift card marketplace and you can buy an Amazon gift card with crypto for guess what? You can buy it for up to 30, sometimes even 50% off. And it'll be a real code. And people ask me, man, how can that possibly be real? How do you know it's not a scam? The reason it's real is simple. It's because transfer of money in the global south is so broken by design that it opens up those arbitrage opportunities. For example, in Nigeria, right? There's a huge disparity between the official price of naira to the dollar, which is set by the central bank, and the actual black market price, or really the street price, right? So the street price is always double, right? That's the real price. And then the official price is always it's like half as much. Meaning if someone in Pasadena, California decides to send his uncle back in Nigeria, $100 when he uses Western Union, right? When that guy goes to pick up the naira, the local Nigerian currency from Western Union, he's getting it at the official price. Meaning that $100 will only be like $50 worth of naira. If he got, Bitcoin instead, even if, he had to take a 50% loss on the Bitcoin, he would still get the black market price, the street price for it. So he'd be getting the same. Even if someone has to give you a 50% discount off a gift card and you get crypto, they're still getting the same amount as they would have gotten from Western Union, but they're getting it instantly. They don't have to wait 2 days and go and pick up cash at some faraway place. And the good thing is they can sell that crypto to the guy next door for a bank transfer and make a 10 or 20% profit because crypto is more scarce in those places. So you can see how it works. Even if a Nigerian has to give a 50% discount off a gift card code to get some crypto, he still comes out ahead, or at least he cuts even and gets it instantly. That's how we got the first crypto into Africa and the global south, was this hack with gift cards. We said, hey, instead of telling, Uncle Bob in Pasadena, California, to send you money with Western Union, where you only get half at the, scam rate from the central bank, ask him to buy a gift card, sell it to some guy in China, even if you give him 50% off, you're still getting the same amount and you're getting it instantly and you can turn around and flip it and make a profit. Nigerians are like, babe, how do we know this is not a scam? I'm like, try it. Try it with a $10 gift card. They tried it and it worked. Like, oh, this is real. This is amazing. $60 million flew through that one corridor every single week. That's how we got the first Bitcoin, first cryptocurrency into Africa. And this was the only hack that was available. Was how do you get money out of places like Nigeria? It's so hard. Whole multinational corporations do that, but they do that by buying a bunch of cacao beans from Lagos. It's one of their top imports, the second biggest import next to gas. And they'll ship it to Rotterdam, and it's like $10 million for a minimum order of like 8,000 tons of something, 8,000 pounds of cacao beans or something. And that's the only way for them to do it. But we found a way for people to do it with gift cards. Amazing. A huge hack. And this is how we got Bitcoin into the global south, with this hack. And I'm continually hacking. Peer-to-peer marketplaces are places for arbitrage hackers. You will get the same financial access that only multinational corporations have enjoyed. Because yes, you can use it to onboard people, sell your gift card for cash or for crypto, take the crypto, sell it for a bank transfer. So what you've essentially done is you've taken a gift card bought in dollars in California and you turned it into a bank transfer for naira in Nigeria. In between were two peer-to-peer trades. Crypto was just a clearing layer. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, Monero, USDT, whatever. It just allows the money to jump across borders and transform. So essentially what peer-to-peer marketplaces do is they're essentially universal translators and transporters for money. This is an amazing invention. It's like mind-blowing, but it works. This is why we're here. We need to blow this up. Because when people think about crypto, they still think only about meme coins. They don't know there's this miraculous peer-to-peer universal translator and transporter for money. That is the prize.
I'm in Bitcoin for a very long time, and I am a Bitcoin developer, so all I can see is the problems. Now, let me try to clash my vision with your vision and see your reflections on it. Okay, so there's David Friedman and his vision of the world of strong privacy. So the idea is that an unobservable economy cannot be taxed because it cannot be observed. So you cannot steal something that you don't know that there is. Now, but how do we get to an unobservable economy, right? Well, most of the economy is already unobservable, but it's like a lot of hacks upon hacks. But okay, so we need anonymous communications and anonymous money in order to build marketplaces, preferably trustless marketplaces, on top of these two technologies. And we kind of have a problem because we can build anonymous communication that works well, but it's like still not quite built or mainly adopted. But we have a much more larger problem with anonymous money here. And because we don't just need anonymous money, right? Then we would have eCash, which is extremely anonymous and everything is great, but that's going to be shut down because someone has to be behind it. And someone can steal the monies, right? So what we need is a money system that's anonymous, fast, almost free, uninflatable, and unstealable, right? Non-custodial. Now, what I notice is that you're doing stuff with what we already have, but I'm kind of more ambitious here, that I want to have a perfect money and perfect communication that we can build proper trade on top of.
Yeah, that would be great, right? So let's go over those four things again. So it's uncensorable, you said, unstealable. I'm not sure. I mean, self-custody.
Security, let's call it security. And security would mean uninflatable, right? Stealing through the money supply, or unstealable, like no third parties can touch your money. So I would say just security to cover all those two use cases.
This money can only be minted when actual work is done, right? Proof of work. It all comes back to that, right? And, I think the prices can be fixed. Like if Bitcoin just had bigger blocks, all that stuff can be fixed. Maybe you'll get to points of scaling, but humanity is capable of designing a layer one that is scalable. I know that. It is. So I'm not worried about that part. Self-custody, that's just an educational challenge. It's the uninflatable part. Proof of work, right? So proof of work with mining works by electricity, right? The work is in the electricity generated and in the work done to create those miners, whether it's a CPU or whatever. But really it's about electricity, which is a great way to measure work because it takes work to make electricity, right? You have to make something spin, a conductor spin around a magnet, right? That's how we make our electricity. But is there other kinds of work that we could use that would be more fair? Not everyone can have an ASIC miner, right? It's expensive.
People are trying to do that for a decade. Did someone come up with something cool?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it right now. Maybe we'll figure it out, right? We're smart. Our hearts are in it. What's the most important work in the world right now? Making electricity is important. It keeps our TV monitors on, our pencil sharpeners going. But the most important work is it's not actually electricity. It's trade. It's trade. When value moves around the world, that takes a lot of work. You ever try to close an OTC deal? It's a freaking nightmare, man. There's a lot of work that's involved. What if this money supply could be created every time trade is done, every time money moves, right? Every time a peer-to-peer trade is done, that's quite a bit of work, and it's much harder to fake peer-to-peer trades than it is to fake, the continuous limit order books and exchanges, right? It's very easy to wash trade that, but it's a lot harder to do that in peer-to-peer. What if every single peer-to-peer trade was a measure of work? What if this new currency we created on a blockchain that could scale, that had self-custody, that was uncensorable, kind of like Bitcoin, that it could scale, let's say something with the properties of Monero or Bitcoin Cash, also private, right? It's possible to make a private blockchain that is based on proof of work and can scale, is cheap, right? We can get there. But the big part is the issuance. The issuance. Are we going to just do SHA-256 mining? Are we going to do random X like Monero's CPU mining? Okay, those things are possible, but that shouldn't be the only proof of work out there. What if all of these peer-to-peer trades that have been happening for the past 10 years all created bits of this token and it flowed to those people, both parties that were making those trades? Economics is very simple, actually. You don't need a huge degree and to read all these books. It's all about encouraging behaviors. What behavior do we want to encourage? We've had a financial system that has evolved to incredible efficiency for the past 200 years, but it's based on hoarding. I got my billions, I'm going to hold on to it and fuck everyone else. I'm going to protect the golden goose like the Rothschilds. But that system really doesn't work. It has left huge swaths of our youthful population unemployed. The money does not move around. There's not enough money in circulation to match the amount of potential work. That is what Mr. Rothschild said was the ultimate power, to control that switchboard in an economy. So we just need to get that money to flow, to match the amount of potential work that can be done. And clearly SHA-256 mining is probably not the best way to do that. Is there another way, though, besides just some central banker typing some numbers on a keyboard and hitting the enter button? Would proof of human work, proof of trade? So instead of POW, we get pot.
Okay, so proof of moving money, that's trivial, but what about moving money to yourself?
Well, people could try to fake the system by doing trades with themselves and having all these different addresses and making money move around by themselves. Then this token would be created to both parties and they would be getting it. There are abuse vectors there. But what if the money, okay, so then we dance around that and we say, okay, well, you're doing this trade, then all of this money that's created based on these trades isn't going to go to the traders. Instead, it'll go to a central pool somewhere. And this will be the reserves, right? And who earns that? So we've deflected away the issue right now so people aren't incentivized to fake things. But again, how is the money distributed from this pool? What do you really want to do right now? You want to incentivize people to trade, so they should get some of the money that goes there. The rest should go to this pool. But who decides where this money from this pool is going to go? Again, we have things, we have resources, we have tools that can help us there. DAOs, right? People can put in, hey, money got created in this pool. We're going to put in a proposal. We're going to build an Autobahn. We're going to build a highway system, or we're going to build a school. I built 13 schools in Africa. I did it with my own money. But I could put a proposal, hey, all of this token has been created. $10 million of this token has been created. I propose that we take $1 million and we build 5 schools in Africa. And people can vote with their token. I know it's a little messy right now, but things can work, man. It's just about encouraging behaviors. But clearly, proof of trades is the way. There are corner cases, of course, but, there's ways to move around that as well. There's also identity and reputation. Maybe only people that get past a certain reputation score can get those earnings for those trades. And maybe you don't need the KYC to have a reputation. Maybe we can maintain your reputation, proof of trades, the graph, without revealing your identity. There's ways to do that as well. This is all engineerable. I've actually done this in a centralized way by building a marketplace, because a marketplace is a very finely tuned, living, organic machine. It has to be reputation in a marketplace. Even if you don't want to dox yourself, your reputation is based on the positive feedback and your trade partners like a web of trust. There also has to be a disputes process. So I built a decentralized court system within Noah's. That's tremendously difficult. That's much harder than what we're talking about here, man. If you can solve that, this issuance problem is no problem, bro. There's also keeping your order book clean. How are you going to keep an order book clean if, you're not acquiring everyone to dox themselves? Man, there's ways to do that as well. I've had 10 years to figure this out. So the challenge of keeping an order book clean, the challenge of building a decentralized court system, the challenge of doing reputation without necessarily having to have identity, these are much harder challenges than how to figure out how to do a proof of work-based issuance of money.
Let me tell you a story. I was following you on Twitter. It might have been a year ago that you said something on Twitter that if you don't agree with this view, then unfollow me. And I unfollowed you, not because I didn't agree with this view, but because I did not have an opinion. And I, like that was your wish, and I respected your wish. But I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was something about some war going on. So you are a very, very outspoken person. I'm following you right now. Don't worry. You are a very outspoken person. And I'm wondering where this is coming from. What's in your mind? Are you religious, or do you have some, yeah. Why are you so opinionated, man?
Well, the question is, think about it like this. When you trust, like, no one's is a centralized exchange, as a custodial wallet right now. Would you trust someone with your money that wouldn't even speak out for a young baby being bombed and starved to death? Is that the kind of human being you would trust with your money?
How do you know that a young baby is being bombed, right?
I get the videos every day in my feed. Every single day. I see it.
And you trust them?
100%. 100%, man. Unquestionable evidence. Live stream to my feed every day. Me and millions of people around the world get this every day. That's why there's millions of people protesting and marching around the world. It's unquestionable. And yet I see no other CEO talking about this. Are you going to trust people like this that can't even defend the life and value of a child? Defend baseline human morality? Genocide is bad? Are you going to trust these kinds of people with your money? Weaklings?
Well, look, there are a lot of things going on the internet, and I consider them as propaganda. I think I'm a libertarian at this point, but even the libertarian stuff that I'm seeing, I consider that as propaganda, and I don't like to believe it. Now, if you're confronted with something that, like undeniable, and you're not condemning that behavior, right? But I think that person doesn't exist. I think even the worst lizard person in the world, like the guy from the World Economic Forum, like even if he's confronted with anything like that, then he's going to do the right thing.
No, absolutely not. He's getting in everyone's face and outwardly denying it. And so are all the other people that the machine is feeding. That's why we're in this mess. That's why humanity is in this mess. And everyone's too afraid to speak out. What's happening now in Gaza is simply a test for humanity itself. Humanity, baseline morality is literally being tested.
Okay, so we are talking about Gaza now? Yeah. Yeah, okay. What's going on there? I don't know.
Man, babies are being blown up, bro. You can go on Twitter.
Yeah, I do believe that.
Every single day. Every single day. It's a live genocide. They're bragging about it. These are the people that own the central banks and the media, and they're bragging about it, man. They're trying to test humanity. Are people going to speak out? Everyone in this business, every other crypto CEO is kept completely mum on the topic. Fatty. Would you trust these weaklings with your money? I'd rather trust a bad man with my money than a weak man with my money. There's nothing worse than a weakling. I am not a weakling. I'm not perfect, but I'm in this game, meaning the game of life, to move on to the next life. I don't believe in religion. Religion is just dogmatic propaganda sent there to fool human beings and to motivate us to give people money and influence that don't deserve it. I believe in a singular creator. That creator is a loving creator that created us to put us in this world to test us in the intention of our deeds. These are all things that make logical sense to me. And of course, I want to pass the test because I want to go back home, brother. Home for human beings is not this world. We were not created for this world. Technically, we're the aliens here. So I'm just trying to get back home. And I can't ignore the fact that I have a human heart. If I see a child suffering, if I see injustice, that hurts me. I can't just ignore it and go about my day. Oh, I'm rich now. I'm fine. Let me get my Ferrari and bang a bunch of hoes and, let's see what happens tomorrow. That's not me, brother. I drive a Mini Cooper. I'm happy with that. I eat well. I live a good life, but I work hard because I want to destroy injustice because God made me into a warrior. That's what I am. I can't ignore that. There's no amount of money in the world that anyone could offer me that will get me to go against my own soul. And my own soul was clearly created by God, by a singular, intelligent designer. That's it. That's what I believe, and that's what motivates me. That's who I am.
Did you ever get in jail?
Yeah, I've been to jail several times, or at least detained. Quite the experience. The longest stretch was about 2.5 months in an old, dilapidated Russian ex-Soviet prison in Estonia for smoking weed, for having weed on me. Crazy. But hey, it got me closer to God. I started reading up and researching in the quiet time, which was welcome, and started praying all the time, never missing my prayers. That was one of the best things about it. It was a blessing.
Any experience when you get detained in a way that you knew that if you have to compromise on a principle of yours, like smoking weed is like, okay, man, you're smoking weed, whatever, and then you become really just unlucky in that situation. But have you ever got in jail in a way that you knew that if you're going to do this, then you're going to get in great trouble, and that it happened?
No, it's what I'm doing right now. I'm challenging the entire alliance. That's definitely going to put me on their hit list. Is an old African saying, the higher the monkey climbs up the tree, the more people can see his butt, And I'm starting to climb up that tree and challenge the most powerful and, vicious people in the world. So I'm prepared for whatever comes, but I'm not really scared. I'm really not. I believe in God. God will always make a way out for me. I'm one of the few soldiers on this battlefield that is in a position to do something. And then I have the resources and the capacity. And, I've proved myself. I've passed the ultimate test, which is the test of wealth. The test of poverty is relatively easy to pass compared to the test of wealth. If you want to see who someone really is, give them some money. If they're a douchebag, they'll be a douchebag 10x. If they're an imbecile and an idiot, they'll be an imbecile and an idiot. But there's those very few rare people that will actually, use that money responsibly and use it for things that actually help humanity, not just themselves. I've been matching 9x on donations to Gaza, direct peer-to-peer donations. It's like a Lamborghini every month I send over there. I've sent over a Bugatti so far. That's what I do with my money. I could be driving a Ferrari and a G-Wagon and going out every night to the club and spending, 6 figures and showing off, and that's just a disgusting life. Anyone that lives that kind of life, I pity. They're weak and pathetic people, and they're failures, they're losers. I'm a winner. I passed the test of wealth, and I'm 47 right now. At the age of 26, I had that same test, and I didn't pass it. I wasn't a douchebag or anything. I took care of my family. I did things like that, but I didn't have God in my life. I didn't have, the grounding, the focus and fortitude to know where to apply it. You have to apply that money so you can pass the test. And the test is to fight against this darkness in this world. That's why we're here. The humans are not here to be happy and, especially men. We're here to fight. We're here to prove our value as human beings, as singular creations, our value in this game. It's like a hologram. It's like a video game. We're here to rack up experience points, and we will be judged by the ultimate currency, and that currency is the intention of our deeds.
That's well said.
These aren't my words, brother. These are the words of God. It says in the Quran, it tells you the meaning of life. It says, I created humans and the jinn, meaning these, some people call them demons or fallen angels, but they have egos just like us. God created them and us for only one purpose, to worship God. That's the meaning of life, to worship God. No, I used to be an atheist, and when I read that, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why does God need us to worship him? God doesn't need us to worship him. All the worship in the world won't add a single atom to Allah's universe. However, when you look at human beings for a moment and you think about the design, whoever designed humans literally made us as worship machines. The desire to worship is even stronger than the desire for survival. If a plane, crash lands in some island and all these natives there, never seen a plane in their life, what are they going to do? They're going to build a shrine around that plane, make a lore and mythology around that. And it shows you how powerful the drive to worship is Whoever designed us literally designed us to worship. It's a stronger drive than even survival, and it just made logical sense to me. We were created to worship, and there's only one thing that we can worship that'll give us power, and that is God, the singular God, the one God, the creator, the designer. If you worship anything else, you won't be happy. You'll be humiliated and destroyed, and you will lose the test. That all makes perfect logical sense to me.
The sense that I'm looking at it is from Feuerberg's projection theory, which says that God is the believer's highest value. So the plane, in worshipping the plane, right? No one ever seen a plane before. Then you worship a plane. Well, that becomes your highest value. There is you know that there is something great there, and you might be worshipping that because you wanna have some of that greatness, or to understand something there. Let me. You shared so much. I feel like I need to share something with you as well. Have you heard about? You have heard about Wasabi Wallet, right? You know about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Wasabi Wallet, I stopped contributing a year ago, or more than a year ago. Let's just say that I was starting to fly too close to the fire, the sun. What did you say? Seeing the S's, whatever. So
the monkey was climbing too high up the tree.
yeah, but of course a man never really abandons their vision, right? If a path is on, if there is an obstacle, then you don't turn around, you find a way through that obstacle. And what I figured, and this will be a good transition to our next topic, what I figured is that I might set up a very elaborate plan and execute on it, because we need to have private, uninflatable, instant, and nearly free money in the world to serve the commerce of the world, right? But how do we get there? So it is clear to me at this point that they are not going to let us do that, right? With Wasabi, we were trying to do everything by the book, and they are not letting us do that. So what do? We might have Monero, but look at Monero, it's barely usable, so that doesn't seem like the uncensorable way, doesn't seem like going anywhere. It can always go somewhere, right? Like there can always be some joker, some unexpected genius that figures out, now you see, this is how you do things, and this, we are going to have private and inflatable money. But it didn't happen yet, not in a user-friendly way, nevertheless. So what I figured is that I know how to build it. I have the technical knowledge. I know exactly. But I need to do it privately, like in stealth mode. I gave myself a year. With Wasabi, we are talking about tens of millions of dollars, right? So we need orders of magnitude more money, because I was trying to do the same thing with Wasabi and we didn't succeed. So I need orders of get at least $1 billion, and in 1 year we do it in stealth mode and then release it to the world, and they can do whatever the fuck they want with me. This thing is going to take over the world like ChatGPT did right away, because it's private, uninflatable, instant, and nearly free to transfer money. So now the problem here is that getting $1 billion, not in just, I'm talking about $1 billion that you can just move, right? Like Elon Musk was able to move his money to buy Twitter. That's a really hard thing to get. So you might need a couple of lifetimes to get there. And that's what brought me to work on longevity. And my first goal is to make sure that we can, if we want, of course, given, then we can live for many lifetimes. Now, have you ever looked into longevity before?
Launch a what?
Making people's lives longer.
Longevity. Yeah, like Nietzsche said, any being that gains considerable maturity and spiritual development, the next thing that we're looking forward to do is to die, right? And that's what I want. Once I've achieved, seventh heaven, once I've bought my ticket, Get me out of this place as quickly as possible, man. Anyone that wants to live forever, you can never trust that, man. We're not from this world. Why would you want to be an alien in a world that is not made for us? I just want to get to the next life, bro. I've seen what this world has to offer, and it's just a test. Our journey through this world is like a traveler walking through a massive desert and stopping in a tree for some shade for a couple of seconds. That's how short it is. So, I don't put a lot of value on this life.
You get right to the crux of that issue, by the way, because if you achieve a lifespan that you don't have to die anymore by external factors, then your immediate problem is now you somehow, at some point, you have to end this, and you have to end this on your own terms. And that's my master plan, that if we release the software, the perfect money to the world, then they are gonna take me out, right? In no time. But you know what? Like, if they take me out, if I have to die, like, that's the way I want to die. That's the hill I want to die on.
Beautiful to die on, brother, as a martyr. Well, I will give you heaven for that.
It's not martyrdom, right? Because it succeeded. Let's move on to your stuff. So how do you move? Resistance training, cardio, or you're going again?
Look, I'm 47 right now, so I used to box 4 or 5 hours every day, like to train MMA and stuff like that. That's, I might start doing that again, but really, bodybuilding is a great sport. Just do, your half hour, an hour of cardio every day, maybe some fasting cardio, and then just lift weights 5 times a week. That's the best. Just do that. You can mix it up with, some martial arts training, some yoga, really good stretching routine. Just experiment and figure out your body. It's very important. It's critical, especially for us nerds out there who exist so much up here in our minds that we forget we have a body. It's critical to develop and strengthen your body. Otherwise, we will have our thinking done by cowards and our fighting done by fools, which is the reason we're in this mess right now, is because the over-specialization has destroyed humanity, and it has destroyed manhood. The splitting up of the scholar and the warrior, absolutely immensely devastating to the human condition. And they've even further broken it down, the specialization where, you specialize in just, pediatric biology, or you specialize in cosmology, or no. A well-educated man should have a full grasp of everything. If you guys want to understand who we should be modeling ourselves after, it should be guys like Rudolf Steiner, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the great Victorians. These were men that had grasp of everything, and it is possible to do so. Stop watching, sports. It's all junk. Get off OnlyFans. Stop watching TV. And if you guys want some great sources, follow me on Twitter. I'm also always posting sources to great books, especially on hermetics and the occult. We all need to get back to the real human history, which has been completely covered up. The dark ages of Europe was actually the glory times of Europe. It's when the Europeans, with empires like the Tartarian Empire, built all these amazing monuments based on etheric technology that came from ancient Egypt. Then that was all buried, completely buried. And in fact, the entire Victorian school of thought, of science, of what the great Victorians called natural philosophy, like Isaac Newton, didn't call himself a scientist, called himself a natural philosopher. So did Nikola Tesla, so did William Crookes, so did Sir Oliver Lodge, so did Maxwell, so did Faraday, Humphreys. The Victorian Revolution is most manifested in the Royal Institute, which was a social club in London, right? And this little social club, the Royal Society and the Royal Institute, it generated over 100 of the world's greatest minds. I don't think people realize how amazing this time was. England in the Royal Institute had like 100 super geniuses. Like 100. This is unfathomable. It's not natural. Germany had maybe 3 of those guys at the same time, which is still an amazing number. Serbia had 1, Nikola Tesla. That's amazing, right? But literally, the Tesla was amazing. I published everything he's ever written, except for one paper I couldn't find. I can send it to you. I know a lot about Tesla, but there were guys around just as smart as him, even smarter. Guys like J.J. Thomson. No one ever knows these names because that entire world of science was buried and replaced with a completely decadent pile of steaming trash, special relativity and this quantum mechanics rubbish that is unengineerable shit. The reason we're talking right now, semiconductor technology, didn't come from special relativity or quantum mechanics or any of this rubbish. It came from the work of the great Victorians. Bell Labs, which came from the semiconductors, came from guys like Rutherford. Rutherford was one of the research assistants of J.J. Thomson, who was the greatest experimental scientist the world had ever seen. He won a Nobel Prize for his discovery of the electron. His son won a Nobel Prize for his, and all 7 of his research assistants, including Rutherford, won a Nobel Prize. This guy figured out how to tell the difference between the size of an electron and the size of the nucleus of an atom in 1889. Can you imagine? These were the kinds of minds that gave us everything that we have now. So I spent 7 years of my life going back and doing what? Reading their original works. Not what people say or talk about them. I read their original stuff and I was blown away. They explained the most complicated things in the simplest possible way. And it just showed me that everything that we are fed now, all of our history, and including our science, has been a lie. Everything. So I'm like,
Everything.
Everything, bro. It's not just everything. It's everything has been literally corrupted 180 degrees. Meaning the heroes are the villains and the villains are the hero. Everything is completely upside down. Black is white, white is black.
And the crux of the issue is specialization.
Specialization is just one of the ways that they have moved us away from enough knowledge to be able to mount a real defense, because no one can zoom out and see the big picture. Specialization is one of those things, one of those tactics that have created tremendous division, moved us further away from the truth. Feminism is another one of those things. Let's make divisions first based on the sexes, then on race, then on class lines, then on nationalities. All this started in Babylon, brother. There's a great story about that I could tell, but we'll skip it for now.
Okay. I had a recent experience that made me think that generalization is going to be the future. I wonder what you think about it. So I was a software developer and one of the best in the world. So I was in the top 100 most active open source GitHub contributors, right? Like that's how much I was coding. I was always in the code. And then as Wasabi grew larger and larger, I almost stopped coding completely. I was coding very little, right? Like once a month, something. So I stopped coding for a couple of years. And just now that I'm working on a new project, I started coding again and I realized everything has changed. Now I'm doing most of my coding by asking the AI to do the coding. Like, holy shit. Now I have to be good at talking to the AI instead of writing the code, and I zoom into the code very rarely. So that enables people to create softwares, which is the goal of coding, actually, and a lot of programmers forget. But the goal is to create something that other people use, right? And I think that might works out in other ways, in other specializations, that, hey, my specialization is going away because now I can just talk to an AI and other people can do it as well. Have you ever thought about it this way, that AI could change us to be generalists instead of specialists?
Yeah, I mean, look, AI can be useful, but who's creating the AI? The people that are creating the AI are the same people that control our web hosting, that control our media, and that control our financial applications. They're clearly the bad guys. They're the same people that have been suppressing science by controlling the flow of funding. So clearly we're headed in a very bad direction. The ancient occultists talked about this all the time. Rudolf Steiner, he was an ancient, it was in 1886, but he talked about the Arlamanic, Arlama and Azur Mazda. This is the whole Zoroastrian, like Sumerian pantheon. Arlaman was the bad guy, and he had a very mechanistic way of thinking about things. And what this AI is just taking that whole very mechanistic world, which has completely corrupted science and pretty much everything, and just, impressing upon the world in the form of a guise, of a useful helper, an assistant. And yes, well, if you can go to an AI and get answers for everything, it's like a search engine on steroids. It's all about the source of the information. If you're getting all of these easy answers, are you going to have the emotional stamina and intellectual capacity to actually be able to go and research and get to the truth? In fact, if you're living in a world where machines are doing all the work for you, do you even care about the truth, about what actually happened? Or are you so far removed from your humanity that none of that even matters? And that's the world they're trying to create. They just want to create a world where humanity will fail the test, and AI will just become a way that these dark forces in the spirit world can manifest. Because, there is a spirit world out there. There are these beings, fallen angels, demons, jinn, whatever name you want to use for them. They exist. They exist in our world. They were here first. We're technically the aliens. They can see us. We can't see them. And they think in a very linear and mechanistic way, which is really what the Matrix was about. The Matrix was about the entire spirit world. And the machines were these jinn, right? And they want to ensnare and entrap humanity in this very mechanistic world where we are simply reduced to hackable animals. Because if we are dependent on AI, if we have lost the function to really research, think, and dig for the truth ourselves and really kind of stop caring about the truth, period, we think it's all propaganda or this or that, or it's all relative, right? Then we really do become hackable animals. We're being hacked by our own servants. It's actually a brilliantly evil setup. It's completely diabolical, actually. There was definitely a design of all of this, and I see exactly where it's going. I refuse to let it win. All of this shit is going into the trash bin of history, God willing.
I so hate myself for going into this topic because we are going farther away from the fit part of the Bitcoiners. But let's talk a little bit about truth. Now, I did some philosophical investigation, and there is a problem with truth, and the problem is that there is no definition of truth that actually works.
Sure there is. What actually happened? What actually happened? And then why? The why is where it gets iffy, right? What are the motivations of these humans? Why did World War I happen? World War II was just a continuation of World War I. World War II changed the entire world. But why did World War I actually happen? I searched for the answer for a long time. Never got it. In America, they said it was the assassination of some insignificant duke by who knows who, and all of a sudden the Europeans started to slaughter each other like animals for almost a decade, wiping out whole generations. And I believed it at the time. So I didn't know any better, but you'd have to be a racist to think that Europeans were just barbaric, animalistic morons. They would actually do something like that. But guess what? I made friends. I kept digging. I went on the journey, and someone introduced me to the truth, and it all made sense. And then you go down the rabbit hole, and you figure out, okay, this is what actually happened. You want to know why World War I happened? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Simple. It started because of Russia. The central bankers wanted Russia. Eurasia was the greatest kingdom in the world, the biggest multiracial empire in the world, the breadbasket of Europe, and had no national debt to them. In fact, it was an egalitarian society where 88% of the land was owned by the peasants under the Tsar, Romanov, and Stolypin, the prime minister. And the Rothschilds were like, man, we got to get this boy under control. So they lured him into a war with Germany, sold him by getting England and France in on it too, and that's where all of these things that people talk about. But that wasn't the real reason. Those were just symptoms and tools and angles that the central bankers used to create this war. And they were funding Germany. Germany was winning easily. And they wanted that to continue. So eventually Russia would be broken and they could go in there and just mop it all up like they did in 1917, right? With the Bolshevik Revolution. They sent two guys from the Lower East Side of New York, Leon Trotsky and Vladimir Lenin, to go in and finish the job. But something happened in World War II. They switched sides. The central bankers stopped funding Germany, and instead they funded England and got America into the war against Germany. They totally switched sides. And why that switch happened tells you everything you need to know. What do you think the English offered them to get them to switch sides to them and get America into the war? What could you possibly give these central bankers that would be worth more than the entirety of Eurasia, which is the prize right now, right? The massive, huge land mass full of natural resources. What could you possibly give them that would be worth more than that?
Well, definitely not money, about power.
Exactly. What was it? What would these central bankers, people that only think about numbers, only think about money, or so I thought, what could you possibly offer them that would get them to say, okay, we'll give up on Eurasia for now because we just want this one thing so bad? It's not a conspiracy theory. The Balfour Declaration was signed in 1917. It was ratified in 1919. And it basically said, hey, England, give us Palestine. The Rothschilds gave up all of Eurasia for a little itty-bitty piece of beachfront property in the Middle East. Me as a logical thinking person, like, that makes no fucking sense. That's like me being in a divorce and telling my wife, you know what? You can have the mansion. Let me just have the doghouse. It makes no sense unless these people are actually motivated by a religious prophecy, far more than money.
Yeah.
And as illogical as that is, it actually makes sense because all their moves really defy logic. If you're trying to look at it through a logical paradigm, it doesn't make sense. But once you start looking at it through that paradigm, oh, holy shit, now it starts to make sense. And what's happening now makes sense. Oh, let's get into World War III. Why? Because we want this little beachfront property here, man. These guys own half the world, man. They control all the money publishing of the world. Yet this little piece of land is so fucking important. Why? Now we know. The truth is out there, brother.
That makes sense, but no one's talking about that.
No, the guy that introduced me to it was killed 8 years ago. He was a brilliant man. He wrote many books. One of the best books he wrote was Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind. You can find a YouTube video on it, too. It's 3.5 hours. It's brilliant. His name was Stephen Mitford Goodson. He used to be the chairman of the South African Reserve Bank. So he's not some clown. He was a brilliant man, understood money very well, and that book is a must-read. And the truth is out there, guys. It truly is. I spent 7 years down the rabbit hole myself, and I wasn't just watching YouTube videos. I was sitting there and getting my mind fit. Because once I started falling down the rabbit hole, I realized, shit, everything I know isn't just wrong. It's exactly wrong. And that's very painful for a man, because we put so much of our self-worth and identity on the knowledge that we have. Once you see, oh, it's not just that the knowledge I have was wrong, it's completely wrong. I was like, well, I'm a complete fucking moron. Shit. It's time to get to the truth. Just like that scene in The Matrix where Neo is jacked out and you have to rebuild him sinew by sinew, joint by joint, muscle fiber by muscle fiber. That's what we have to do to our minds. But believe me, if you're willing to actually tough it out, you'll get there. I'm one of those people that got there. That's why I'm on this mission. And that's the kind of fitness that we need. I want people to start talking like me. I want more warriors out there fighting so I'm not so lonely anymore. Because believe me, once you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, life gets real lonely.
What do warriors eat?
A lot of protein, a lot of meat, a lot of fats, cholesterol is good, good carbs, sweet potatoes, quinoa, basmati rice, no fruit juice. Your fruit is good though. But just trying to get as, optimal protein to grow is very hard. You have to eat a lot, So eating, bodybuilding, gaining muscle is more of an eating game. What you do in the gym is important, but eating is a lot more important, So just try to get as much protein in as you can every single day. Don't be afraid of fat. Avoid sugar like the plague. Sugar makes you dumb. You don't need it. Take care of your water. I make my own water, actually. I'm actually designing my own water bottle. This is not it. That structures the water with vibration, with light, and with motion, the vortex motion. And it's completely changed the game for me. I'm 47, but I look great. I feel great. I'm incredibly strong. If I took off my shirt, you'd see the rippling pecs and the 5-pack, not a 6-pack, a 5-pack. It's good. It's it's a 5-pack. I'll take it. So yeah, water is very important. The water is really important. And then just, making sure you sleep. I wear this Whoop band that measures my sleep. Has a great app as well. Measures your sleep and recovery and your strain as well. These things are important. You need to eat right, sleep right, and hydrate yourself to the max. These are the most important things, honestly. That's how you can grow. What you do in the gym, for 90 minutes a day, it's important, but it's more for your mind, if anything.
You're taking supplements?
Yeah, I experiment with a continuous rotation of supplements. Some things like citicoline, NAC, HP5, glucosamine, for my joints. I do a lot of I'm constantly experimenting. I have a huge list of stuff that I experiment with. I put baking soda in my water because it helps alkalize it, and I have a very acidic system. What do you call it? Creatine is actually an excellent supplement. I try to get it with every single meal. I do an ice bath, sauna, and the ice bath, 3x rotation every week, at least once. Huge life hack. Takes away all your aches and pains. These are all life hacks I wish I knew when I was, 20. But I didn't have any mentors. Got to learn things the hard way.
You're traveling a lot. How do you organize when you're doing that?
Yeah, the only way is just to stop traveling. I'm going to get my own plane soon, but I need to have like a huge cargo area so I can basically be living on the plane. Travel with my own chef would be nice, but I can't do that now. Traveling is hard. Just try to keep it minimal because your eating always falls off when you travel, and so does your training as well. I still always make sure to train at least 3 times a week. At the very minimum, I'll do a calisthenics and stretching routine in my hotel room or whatever, but when I'm traveling, I'm also speaking publicly and meeting a lot of people, which drains away a tremendous amount of energy from me because I'm what you call an energy sensitive, a very empathic person. If I'm meeting people all the time and speaking in public especially, it's very draining. So when I come back from my travels, I'm just beat up and wrecked and I need to, sleep for 3 days and recover. So avoid traveling. There's nothing wrong with a boring routine. Boring routines are what make warriors, believe me. Embrace the boring.
What do they say? It's better to be a warrior in peacetime than something else in wartime. What about your willpower? Where in your systems do you have to apply the most amount of willpower?
Well, it's going to sound silly, but really just getting up every day at the right time. I go to bed early. I wake up every day for the morning prayer, 5:29 in the morning now. So I wake up at 5:29 in the morning for my deep sleep. I'll wash myself, do the ablution, then I'll pray. And I do, I pray like Moses, Abraham, Jesus, and all Muslims and Coptic Christian priests pray. That's the way to pray. That's number one. If you can get past that, you're freaking awesome. Everything after that is gravy. After that, I'll go to the gym. So I'll do my fasting cardio plus weights. Then, wow, I feel great. I woke up early, I prayed, and I went to the gym. Oh, I made my bed, of course, before I left the house. Those 3 things are a major crown on my day. Then I get back, I reward myself. I'll, eat a nice breakfast. Maybe I'll smoke, a spliff that I roll myself, just tobacco, but it helps me use the bathroom. And then, I had a great meal. I pooped. Man, I'm feeling good. That's my reward. Then it's time to smash away at the work, right? Get to work. But honestly, I've already had a complete day. I took care of my spiritual obligations, at least the hardest one in the morning. Went to the gym, put that crown on my day. Yes, that's taken care of. Then I reward myself with good food, big old poop. And then I just get to work. Those simple things count for so much. And what it really is about conditioning your willpower, because we all start off with a limited amount of willpower. It's like hit points in a video game. You don't have unlimited hit points. So, you only have a little bit to work with, especially in the beginning, but you can condition yourself to have more constitution and more willpower. But it starts with being, easy on yourself. Give yourself a goal, rock it for 21 days, and it becomes a habit, and then keep building on top of that. It's not going to happen overnight, but you can turn yourself into a beast. But, relish the small victories, because the small victories lead to bigger victories. Being human is hard, honestly. Sometimes just getting up at the right time, making your bed, saying your prayers, and going to the gym, man. But once you got that behind you, everything else is literally just extra credit. How much work can I get done today? Can I face down the things I've been ignoring, like all the HR stuff? And oh yeah, I have to do all this extra work myself. This is the job. I'm a CEO, so, I have no choice but to be that way. Because if I'm not that way, nothing's going to happen. All the people depending on me won't be able to be, they won't be able to feed their families. And then there's the greater mission, right? And that's a lot of stress, a lot of risk. I'm really sticking my neck out. Your money is no one's business. Uncle Sam doesn't like that. Even the Bitcoin maxis are against me now because I'm pushing XMR and calling out their Mr. Fink Max Fiat bullshit. I'm making enemies everywhere because I just stand for the truth. I'm true to myself, but I'm not afraid. I'm never discouraged. Sometimes I'm disappointed in people. I give people a lot of chances. But the person you need to give a lot of chances is yourself. When you talk to yourself, show yourself love. Show yourself respect. Always be grateful. Every single day when I pray, what I'm summoning up is gratitude. I'm grateful to Allah for everything He's given me. If you don't believe in God, you need to work on that first. God is not an old man in the sky. That is a pathetic, juvenile, it's really an infantile concept that has turned a lot of good people away from God. But that's not what God is. God is a mental projection of some kind and operating system for the universe. But God has attributes, and we can understand and respect these attributes. In Islam, God has 99 names. Each of these names refer to one of his attributes. You can reflect on those attributes. Nietzsche did. Nietzsche loved Islam for a reason. Islam really is the truth. It's helped give my life a lot of focus. It's the truth in one very simple way. No other religion has been demonized or made to be more barbaric or primitive than Islam. But it literally is the deepest faith in the world with the most natural vigor and intellectual fortitude, especially from 800 onwards. There was a huge explosion, much like the Royal Institute in England. You wouldn't have had that unless you had this Islamic explosion back then of incredible thought, incredible, absolutely the deepest I've ever seen. I also like Taoism. I think Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, is brilliant. Some people call me a Sufi, but I'm just a believer in the one God. I don't like labels. You can get here too. All you have to do is prioritize the truth. All the man-made dogma is rubbish. I went to Catholic school in the States. There's, a lot of Jewish blood on my mother's side of the family. And here I am. I finally found my way to Islam. And it's given me peace. And it's given me fortitude. And even though you have to sacrifice some things like no adultery, I'm not a player. I'm not a womanizer. I'm like a goody two-shoes, actually. Wearing this priest collar for a reason. It's my own fashion line. But I live a very clean life because Allah likes strength and cleanliness in His followers above all. I don't believe I'm chosen. In fact, it's the opposite. I have chosen myself to serve. And that's the difference. I made the choice.
There is another reason why you're special. Is because you were the first person who answered this question of where do you apply the most willpower in, not with diet. Everyone's having problem with nutrition, it seems.
I mean, it's all about building up the willpower, because if you build up that willpower with those two big wins early and you make that a habit, it becomes a lot easier to say no to the bad stuff. You know what I mean? You just build up the willpower, and then you can say no to the bad stuff. You can say no to, texting these girls back that are messaging you. I don't need that in my life. I'm not going out. No. You can say no to all the bad stuff, man. Just build up your willpower, get those wins early, make it a habit. Try it.
I don't think so. I'm an Übermensch until 2 p.m., right? Like I'm doing everything perfectly. I'm doing everything fast and well. And after 2 p.m., I'm starting to just lose myself, Okay, never mind. Contrarian question time. What's one thing that you strongly believe to be the case, but very few people agree with you on?
I think, as in the fewest people seeing eye to eye with me, probably my beliefs about science and the areas we've been lied to about most, like maybe cosmology. When I tell people what I believe about the structure of the universe, people even the flat earthers call me a madman. They don't even want to hear it. So Yeah, probably that. I think there's the least amount of people that get that because,
Give us a taste.
sure, well, if if you trust NASA and you go to their website, what do they say? That we're these hairless primates that evolved from monkeys and protoplasm hitting piss, living on this little speck of dust that's spinning throughout the universe at, almost 2 million miles per hour, 1,000 miles
Sounds about right.
66,000 miles per hour on the sun, 8,000 miles per hour in the center of the Milky Way galaxy, 1.2 million miles per hour on the center of your blood. That's what they say. So,
Wrong with that.
yeah, that's what they say, right? That's the official story. And we're just like, yeah, it's all relative. That's why, and then you have these flat earthers who are completely wrong. They don't get it. They ask a lot of good questions, but the earth cannot be flat. Through natural observation, you can see a polar star in the north, a polar star in the south, two star fields going in different directions. How can it be flat? Can't, right? So what's the actual truth then? Simple. Like I said before, everything has been flipped on its head. So what is literally the exact opposite of us being hairless primates living on the outside of this speck of dust, spinning throughout the universe at some outrageous speed at 4 angles of rotation? What's the exact opposite of that? Literally. It's not the earth is flat. That's like getting hijacked 90 degrees and waylaid by some propaganda, which is really created to, as a movement created to humiliate Christians. So the exact opposite of that. Ever seen Game of Thrones?
Yes, I'm actually reading it now.
Have you seen the series and the intro?
Mm-hmm.
So remember that intro, it panned throughout the earth and it was like in a bowl, kind of. And when it looked up, it saw this, what it looks like an arbalest. It's like this, concentric rings, one moving around the other. That's actually the real structure of the universe. I haven't read A Song of Fire and Ice, but this dude, he definitely had some, influence on the intro there. So he knows some things. This is an ancient theory. In the Vedas, it's like this cosmic egg is what they call it. But this is what they call the big knowledge, right? The Sufis have some knowledge about this, but they don't really share it. You need some time to figure this out. But basically, we're living on the inside of an egg. The inside of an egg. It's not a perfect sphere. The world is shaped more like an egg or an avocado. And we're living on the inside of it. This is level 0. There's 7 levels below us, 7 hells. We cannot penetrate them. The Russians have only managed to, I think, dig 12 kilometers into the earth, and then they just couldn't go any further. Even nukes didn't work. And if you go up, directly up, you'll hit something hard. A firmament, they call it in the Bible and the Quran, which is this, silica-based shell, really, that's impenetrable. And I estimate it's anywhere from 65 to 100 kilometers up. It's different in certain places. But it's almost like, we're inside an egg, and above us is this yolk, which is like a big sphere that's spinning. Those are the heavens. And the sphere, the ground is not moving. The heavens are actually moving. They're rotating. In the northern hemisphere, the heavens rotate counterclockwise, which is why when you flush water down the toilet, it goes counterclockwise. And you go into the southern hemisphere, it goes clockwise. Because the heavens are spinning, and they're dragging the ether and everything else along with it, which is why you see these spiral patterns throughout nature and also in water. So, whoa, like what? Even the flat earthers are going to laugh at that shit. They're like, you're fucking nuts, man. It's flat, man. And I'm like, well, I listen to them because like a real scientist, I should listen to everything. But I tell them, like, natural observation, I can determine the earth cannot possibly be flat with my own eyes. Travel to the north hemisphere, travel to the south. Your theory is disproven. The aperture of the sun in the northern hemisphere, your theory is also disproven. And they're just like, and it just shows you can literally get people to believe anything at all, even that the earth is flat, even when their eyes will prove it's not. But as busted up as the flat earthers are, people that believe the normal story, they're in an even worse place. The flat earthers just didn't go further enough. I went all the way, 180 degrees. We're living on the inside of an egg, not on the outside. Life is always found on the inside of the cell, not on the outside. These things make sense. And as crazy as I thought this theory was, when you look at the world, like you really study things, you see it's true. Like gravity, for example. Gravity, what is the theory of gravity? I was looking for it. I was like, there is no theory of gravity. We just get a story of an apple falling on Newton's head. This is the kind of story you give like a 2-year-old, expect him to believe. Gravity is not a pull. It's literally the exact opposite. It's a push. And if you read Isaac Newton's private letters, and I read all his private letters, I read as many as the private letters of Victorians as possibly find. One of his letters to, I think it was, it was Sir Edmund Halley of Halley's Comet. Wait a minute, no. Oh, I think, no, it wasn't, no, that letter with Halley, I think it was about the relative motion of planets. He called the relative motion of planets something that only a buffoon would believe in their letter to Halley. But it was another letter, I think it was to Sir Bentley, or I might be getting those confused. I'm sorry, it's the time. Anyway, in one of these letters, he called gravity a descending spirit from above, meaning it was actually pushing, like it was a pressure wave from the heavens, pushing things down. I was like, what? They're crediting Newton, like what? When you read these private letters, you'll see they give you a completely different view of who this man was. And when you read his actual work, especially his writing to his peers, you get the truth, man. We've been lied to about everything. And the lies are literally like pathological in nature. If profit was just the motive, why would you lie about gravity, bro? Why would you make up this whole create? Like, what profit motive could there possibly be? It's a pathology. And I was, the further I went down this, I kept searching for the source of the pathology. And, that's what brought me to the Quran. It's the only book that has never been changed. And it doxes the devil. It literally doxes Diablo himself and makes everything make sense. So I think that's enough about that. But, I think probably that's the hardest thing for most people to believe when I actually I test people, I prod them with like, all right, what do you think? Who's the bad guy here? And, I just see how much their soul is capable of handling. Because, some people are very intelligent, but if their heart is not open, their intelligence will work against them. And that's always, where I'm disappointed. Because if your heart is not open, bro, doesn't matter how powerful your mind is, it'll work against you.
Well, freaks, that's something to look into. Last, finally, let me give you some capitalist propaganda question. Now, talk is cheap, and in a capitalist world where your value lies is what other people are willing to give money for. So my question to you is, for the listeners, how can they give you money and why should they? So what goods and services do you provide for people?
Well, I have my own clothing line. I'm wearing it right here. Making it for friends. It's called I Am Zaman. It means olden times or golden days in Arabic. It's very non-woke, very classic, very military, 30s and 40s. I haven't started selling it yet. I made my first sale though to Amir Taki. I just made him a suit for free, and he loved it so much that he gave me money for it. I was like, great, thanks. My clothing line is coming along. I'm designing a water bottle, actually, that will create real structured water in the best possible way. I just want it for myself.
I'm interested as well.
Yeah, I'll send you one, bro. I just like giving stuff away to people, so I'll send it to you. I'm sure it'll change your life, man. You taste this water. It honestly has a completely different texture than normal water. And 3 days of drinking it, you're like a new man. Your energy levels just blow. Like we're hydro sapiens. We're made of mostly water, and it clearly is the source of consciousness. The most common element on the planet, yet it's probably water and electricity are the two most suppressed areas of science. There's a reason for that. So I'm starting with the water. I'm also designing a car, actually, which is pretty awesome. I don't know if you want that. I'm just going to make one for myself. But if people like it, maybe I'll sell it. I'm designing my own house as well. It's pretty amazing, hermetic, occultic design. It's pretty awesome, actually. If people like it, maybe I'll make stuff for others. But I just build stuff for myself. And no one's, my network state application, financial platform, and media platform, that's up and running. If you want to go there and do some trades or spot trades or any kind of stuff, you'll be giving me money, I guess. There is a profitable operation, But I don't take any profit for myself. We have a value called Everyone Eats, where 50% of our profits go back to the community. We don't spend advertising on Google and Instagram and all that stuff. We just give it back to the people. And the rest we use to launch new products and do new things. So you wouldn't necessarily be giving me money, but you'd be helping. And, I've donated several $1 million to Gaza. So is no one's as well. So we're always looking to do real justice and help people directly. I've built 13 schools around the world so far in my time. And wherever help is most needed and it's not getting to the people because of all this pressure, that's where you're going to find me. I don't care what people call me. I've been banned from the biggest Bitcoin conferences in the world right now just because of Gaza, just because of that. And that's how you know it's the right path. It's not easy to do the right thing. The harder it is, the more karma I build up with the big man upstairs and earn my ticket home. So I'm going to keep doing the right thing, especially the hard thing, because we're in a simulation right now. If you're living here right now, we're playing in legendary mode. But these are the end times. So all the good that you do now will be multiplied many times over. So it's actually pretty easy to get into heaven these days. It's like the things you have to do aren't really that bad. It's just so hard to do them because people aren't aware of what the truth is. And the dark side makes it hard. They put a lot of pressure on you. But I have no problem sticking my neck out for the mission because I like playing on legendary mode. I want to gain the highest score possible. So I'm flying up to seventh heaven in style.
Thank you for enlightening us, hairless humans. Thank you for coming today.